Welcome to Peculiar Paths to Peace, where some find it kooky, others find relief. I'm Adam Freilich, and this is episode 3, entitled The Power of Ink. Before we get started on this new episode, let's quickly review the previous episode entitled Psychological Acupressure. That episode was about a technique called tapping, or EFT, Emotional Freedom Techniques. It's basically a form of meditation which keeps your mind active and focused while giving your hands something to do. This technique involves repeatedly tapping on specific pressure points on your body while listening or repeating phrases regarding the issue that you're tapping about. I can get fidgety when I try to meditate, so that's why tapping is a better fit for me. Tapping, again, can be used for an array of issues. Now, that's all I'm going to say about the previous episode. If you missed that episode or loved it so much that you want to hear it again, check out the show notes and I will have a link to it. Also, connect with me at Peculiar Paths to Peace on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. That's PECULIAR, Paths to Peace. But let's get back to today's episode, The Power of Ink. In this episode, we're going to explore the topic of journaling, the science and research of it, and also different types of journaling ideas. So if the thought of keeping a daily journal or diary bores you to death, stick with me because I have a few different types of ideas, so there should be something for everyone. Disclaimer, the content here should not be taken as medical advice. The content is for informational purposes only, and because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions, advice, or guidance. Now, I love the idea of keeping a journal. However, I never find myself being consistent with jotting down regularly. I normally found myself sitting down and writing about my day, but after literally 2 minutes, I was getting bored. And my mind would start saying things like, okay, Adam, you literally just experienced this. So why are you wasting your time? Or if I was having a bad day, I noticed that I would start reliving, rehashing, feeling those emotions that I didn't really want to be experiencing at that time. And so I just would stop and put it away. If any of those experiences or other experiences have stopped you from journaling, there is hope for us. We can still journal, but maybe we need to do it in a different way. Let's go ahead and look at some of the science behind journaling. This time, I'm not going to bore you about talking through some research abstracts. So what I did this time is I've just made a bullet point list of things, and I have a brief little explanation behind each one of them. So journaling can have some of the following benefits: clarifying your thoughts and feelings. So if you're upset, just start writing everything down that comes to your mind. Don't worry about making connections. Anything that pops up, write it down. You may discover that there are some hidden causes of your emotions, clarifying your thoughts and feelings. Knowing yourself better. You may start noticing patterns of things that make you happy, tense, sad, upset. Perhaps you start noticing types of situations that cause you more anxiety than others. And a big one, you just might discover there's certain people that are toxic to you. Again, knowing yourself better. Reducing stress. Writing down your anger or your sadness or any other painful emotion typically will help to release the intensity of those feelings so that you can start feeling calmer and better, one, about that situation, but two, calmer and better and able to stay in the present moment. Reducing stress. Resolve disagreements with others. Writing down your conflicts can allow you to view the situation from an objective perspective or from perhaps the other person's perspective. Resolving disagreements with others. Now, there is one thing that we will talk about. It's just a little scientific. There are a few interesting research studies. There aren't many, but there are a few that seem to suggest that self-expression through writing can offer physical benefits to people who have either a chronic disease or a terminal disease. It seems like this self-expression through writing creates some sort of boost to the immune system, specifically CD4 lymphocytes. Hopefully that little bit of science talk still has you here with me. Let's go ahead now and get a word from our sponsor. Yep. Still joking. No sponsors are knocking at my door. So what I'm going to do, just quickly, is to tell you about a current book that I'm reading, and I'll also link it in the show notes. Now again, don't have a sponsor, not making any money off of this link, so if you're interested, then you're paying the author. I'm currently reading Quiet Your Mind, an easy-to-use guide to ending chronic worry and negative thoughts and living a calmer life by John Selby. This book, I am totally treating like a textbook. There are things that I am highlighting, underlining, I'm writing all in the margins. I'm about halfway done with the book. I'm reading it kind of slowly and trying to absorb and reflect on the things that are mentioned in the book. If it keeps being a home run hit for me, I'll do an episode where I guess I'll kind of do a book review of it and showcase the different sections or even some of the phrases or the sentences that really spoke to me and my reflections about the book. Again, that's Quiet Your Mind by John Selby, and a link will be in the show notes. Now let's explore 8 different types of journaling. So there's something for everyone. The first one that we'll talk about, I'm just calling it regular daily journaling. This is what a lot of people think of when they hear the word diary or journal. Writing down those daily occurrences, those snapshots of your day. Some people literally will have like a narrative of their entire day. I woke up and this is what I had for breakfast. And others focus just on those positive things or specific things that occurred throughout the day. Some people utilize like a notebook specifically for journaling. Others just use a regular spiral-bound notebook. And others just write actually in a daily or weekly calendar. Makes it brief and simple because there's just a short amount of space for you. So that especially if you feel like you can't fill up a whole page, then utilizing a calendar might be a better option. The second type of journaling I'm calling slight modification journaling. This is a technique where you write in a journal every day or almost daily, but you actually slightly modify the negative or stressful events that occurred. So for example, If you had an argument with someone, then what you would do is you would write down what you would have said or done and how you think that other person would have positively responded to you. Another example could be, let's say you have a deadline that's coming up and you've procrastinated, and obviously other tasks now are popping up and causing you to have to work a little harder, a little later, or longer to get this project done. You would write down how you successfully planned and prepared and didn't procrastinate, and how happy you were that you weren't having to stress about the project and how well the project was going. Ultimately, the goal of this journal is actually kind of tricky. It is to start planting seeds in your mind, slightly tricking your memory and those mind habits, so that when a similar situation occurs, your mind might remember those fake journal entries or those fake memories as being real, and how happy and calm or whatever it made you feel. So this starts motivating you to change some of your patterns almost in a lazy or daydreamy way. The third type of journaling I'm titling fantasy journaling. This technique is about writing daily or weekly about the life that you wish you had. You pick where you live, if you have a partner, if you have kids, how much money you make, what kind of house you live in, whatever. You totally make up anything and everything. The first initial entries are almost always very materialistic. However, you actually start realizing things that make your day a little bit more perfect. And actually, you can start incorporating those things into your current life. So for example, let's say that you're writing down how rich you are, you don't have to work, how big your house is. But what you'll start finding yourself doing is you start writing down maybe going on daily walks and how that energizes you or calms you down, how you like hearing the birds chirping in the background. Maybe you write about going to the farmer's market and bringing home some fresh, juicy pears. What you're doing is you start realizing that there's little things that make you happy or might make you happy, things that you're craving, like maybe more nature walks, going to a farmer's market, eating juicy pears. You can start incorporating these things into your life so that it's not really a fantasy. So see, it's kind of interesting how this fantasy journal actually starts showing you the things that you're missing or craving and how you can easily do it. Now, you can take this fantasy journal into a different light as well. You can actually do this as a vision board of sorts, if you've ever heard of a vision board. Write things down that you want to happen in your life so that hopefully these things do start happening, or you can start working towards making them happen. Now, I've personally done fantasy journaling, the original kind that we said, not the vision board kind. And it was interesting to see how little things started popping up that I was writing down that either I thought would make my fantasy person happy, or kind of things that I wish I was doing in my current life. And so it was kind of interesting to see if I make these tweaks, I'm actually living out a piece of my fantasy. The fourth type of journal, I'm calling it Dig Deeper Journal. This journal is where you're working on your negative thoughts and beliefs. It's kind of like a therapy session. There are 5 steps to this journal, and so I'm going to walk you through the 5 steps, and I'm just going to use like the topic or the example of self-love and not feeling lovable. So the first thing that you do is you write down your underlying assumption. So for our example, I'm not worthy of someone's attention because I'm basically unlovable. Step 2 is you rationally consider if this statement is true based off of who you are now as an adult. Are you truly so totally unlovable? Or is that just something from your past that needs to be reconsidered? So you would write those things down. Step 3, consider what you gain from holding on to these beliefs that you're basically not lovable. Does this attitude serve you well? Does it enable you to attain what you want out of life? Again, you would write that information down. Step 4 is to reflect upon whether your life is being upset or damaged by holding on to the belief that you're basically unlovable. Now, does this attitude make you feel depressed? Does it make you feel lonely? Again, write down your reflections. And the last step, consider how your life would change if you just let go of that assumption that you're not lovable and begin to nourish a self-loving image where you're not only loving yourself, but are quite worthy of other people's love. Now, this type of journal takes some time, so you may not be able to get through steps 1 through 5 all in one sitting or a little 5 to 10 minute session. It's going to require some true self-reflection and some time. But if you're interested in this, it is a great way to dig a little deeper into your thoughts or your thought patterns and see if you can change those. The 5th type of journaling, I've titled it as shared journaling. This is where couples journal in one journal as a way of communicating with each other or for conflict resolution. It is sometimes used as part of marriage or couple counseling. With this technique, the couple uses a journal to communicate and resolve conflict throughout the week instead of talking directly or verbally to one another. In this way, the process of communication is slowed down and becomes more intentional, thereby increasing the likelihood that the couple will utilize the new skills that they've been learning in therapy. Now, if you're not having couple communication problems, you can still use this technique. You and your partner would just choose different color ink and write one page about how your day went. There's also prompt journals for couples. This is where it asks one question a day and each couple writes their answers down to that question. We'll discuss prompt journaling in a little bit. The 6th type of journaling is called dream journaling. This is where you keep a journal and a pen beside your bed, and immediately upon waking up, you write down your dreams or flashes of dreams that you remember. It's very interesting to see if there are repeating patterns or repeated dreams. You can stop it right there, or you can take the dream journal to another level. You can write down those dreams, but go back and write down what you think they mean. You can do this immediately, or you can reflect on that dream throughout the day, and then at the end of the day, write down your interpretation. I've personally done dream journaling before. I would write it down and even try to draw out some things that I saw. I wouldn't write down any of my interpretations, but I would reflect on them throughout the day. And every so often, I would go back and reread, and sometimes I saw them from a different perspective. It's definitely something that I need to start back doing. The 7th type of journal is a hand-me-down journal, or at least that's what I've titled it. It's a cute little idea for a journal, especially for parents or grandparents. This can be done in many different ways. You could write down big memories, like the day that the kids were born, their first words, their first steps, like the big highlights. You could also write down some of your biggest moments and memories of your life, and it doesn't have to include the children. You could also write down some of your philosophies about work, life, friendships, love. You're just writing these down so that you can hand it down to someone else so that they can read through it. It's a kind of cute idea. And then the last type of journaling is called prompt journaling. There's plenty of prompt journals on the market. You can type that in on Amazon or at any bookstore. They ask you a question and you write down an answer. You can either get funny ones or serious ones, ones for couples, all different kinds. Some questions could be, list 5 things that always and immediately bring a smile to your face. If you could own only 4 possessions for the rest of your life, what would they be? What are your top 5 favorite songs? If you were given a free vacation, where would you go? What would you do? And what movies could you watch on repeat? Like I said, there are multiple different types of prompt journals. Just find one that works for you. Now, since we do live in a digital world, let's look at some smartphone apps. Now, all of these that I'm going to mention are free, but all of them do have a pro version or option or subscription to them if you would like more features. I'm only going to highlight 3, and these are 3 that I have personally used. The first one is called Day One. This is a beautifully designed journal. It actually, every time you open it up, will embed some information into your journal, which is kind of nice. What kind of weather was it? Where were you? What's the location? You can also add photographs. Now, it's only available on Apple products, so iPhone, iPad, or Mac computers. If you're looking for a great electronic platform for your journal, this is it. You can even password protect it. The second app is called Thought Diary. Now, this is a very nifty journal. It's basically a therapy session at your fingertips. It's really good if you're wanting to analyze things. The diary has 2 different options. You can use it as a regular journal, and all that it will do is ask you for the title of your journal entry, choose an emoji of how you're currently feeling or the feeling of that journal entry, and then just get to typing whatever's on your mind. The other option is if you want to dig a little deeper into an issue, specifically negative thoughts. You will first type in your negative thought that you're having, and then you're going to select, now this is a psychological term, you will select which cognitive distortion your negative thought falls into. So for example, does your negative thought fall into the all or nothing thinking category? Example, I'm a total failure. Does it fall into jumping to conclusions? She didn't say hi to me, so she obviously hates me. Or, for example, minimizing the positive. They didn't really mean it when they said that. There's a lot of different cognitive distortions, and so you'll just click whichever one you think it falls into. After you select that category, you then will make a challenge statement, which is how can you challenge this negative thought? And then you come up with an alternative thought. What's another way of interpreting the situation? Now, this app is such a great way of recognizing those thought patterns and working through them so that you can change your mind habits. And the last journal diary app that I'll discuss is called Grid Diary Classic. This is a prompting type journal where you just put in some short answers. You can choose up to 8 questions to be asked daily. They could be the same questions, or you can have it to where it just randomizes the 8 questions. And then you just briefly jot down your answers. You can change the questions that are asked at any time, or again, keep the same 8. So here are some example questions. What are 3 good things about today? How can I make tomorrow better? Did I complain too much today? Did I care for my friends today? And the list goes on and on. I like this journal because it's quick. It just takes 5, maybe 10 minutes, and you're done. I also like this because you can use the same question prompts so that you can focus on that throughout the day, so that when the time has come and you're writing down your answers, you've actively worked towards that answer. All right, now it is time for some real talk. Whether you utilize the power of ink or the power of electronic ink, do yourself a favor and start reflecting on your day, writing letters to yourself, or exploring your thinking patterns. Get to know you and get to loving you. Some people say that you can't run away from yourself because wherever you go, you're always there. But I think we run away from ourselves almost every day through unhealthy coping mechanisms, social media and TV distractions, and also as a society, we kind of tend to rely on quick fix medications, which do work, but don't change the underlying issue unless it's used in conjunction with working on our mind and our thought patterns. Otherwise, popping a pill is kind of another form of a distraction. Now, don't think I'm not advocating for medications. I've been on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications before. But I was honestly taking them hoping that they would get rid of the issue. And they did, until the medication wore off. And then it was just back to me, standing in front of the mirror, staring at myself, looking for answers. I still don't have this figured out, but I do know at 36 years old, I'm tired of living the same day over and over again and calling it a life. So I'm working on myself, and I encourage you to do the same. Don't forget to connect with me at Peculiar Paths to Peace on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. That's PECULIAR, Paths to Peace. Until next time, be peculiar and love yourself. Bye. I hope nobody reads my journal. Better make my password like 50 letters and 200 special characters. Maybe I should change people's names too, just to be safe. I also need to reach out to choosemuse.com to see if they want to be a sponsor. They have this meditation device that I've always wanted to try out for or at least for the past year. But it's kind of expensive. I just don't know if I can justify the price just to see if it helps me meditate better or not. Maybe I should look at their return policy. I do have 3 episodes now and 40 views. I'm viral, okay? Totally. Why wouldn't they want to be a sponsor? Okay.